Hi, I'm Caden, here with my brother,
Cal,
and you're watching Eating W's.
eat the W.
That's a W. Let's eat one. Let's eat one. That's a W.
On today's episode of Eating W's, we have our first round of the playoff wildcard weekend prediction episode. Oh man, I am so excited for the playoffs because for the first time in a while, since 2019, the Vikings are actually in it. So it's double exciting. We get to do the playoff picks and my team is actually still alive, which is twice as exciting, but also twice as nerve-wracking, especially the way the Vikings games have been all season. Imagine the pressure that I have felt every week, and then now like quadruple it with each game being a playoff game. So if I die halfway through that, blame the Minnesota Vikings because it is probably their fault. So we're going to talk about, of course, all 6 of the playoff games this wildcard weekend in order of when they are played. But before we jump into those predictions, just a quick update on Cal and I's head-to-head pick'em game. For the end of the regular season, one of us will be crowned the regular season winner, but then we will continue with those scores all the way through the Super Bowl. And then just a quick update on how the point system will work. Each of these games for wild card will be worth 2 points. Each of the games for the divisional round will be worth 3. The 2 games for the championship game will be worth 4 apiece. And then the Super Bowl game will be worth 5 points. So that is how the scoring system will work throughout the playoffs. And drum roll, please, the regular season winner is me. Cal and I both had pretty good weeks last week, but we were tied going into week 18. He only dropped 11 points. I dropped 15 points, putting us at a total of Callan with 175 and me with 179. So Callan definitely gave a good effort that last week, but I just got super lucky. I hit my lock and my upset. Sometimes that just happens.
Yeah, just like the Packers, they just came up short in the final week of the season.
It happens. Sometimes you just can't control what the other team
Ironically,
does.
4 points short also.
Oh yeah, it is the exact same score. Man, that's some sort of weird voodoo curse there. I don't know, man. But as I mentioned, we will continue on with these scores through the playoffs. So now we will jump into those predictions for the playoffs, starting with the first Saturday game of the Seattle Seahawks heading to San Francisco to take on the 49ers in a 7-2 matchup and a split starting off here. I have the Seahawks and Callan has the Niners.
Yeah, I just think that defense is just way too good. Hats off to the Seahawks. They deserve that 7th seed. They led the NFC West for a minute there early in the season. I think they deserved it more than anyone, but obviously besides the Packers. But the way that they played all season long, they at least showed that they were a worthy team. And I just think that 49ers defense is just going to be too much for the Seahawks to overcome.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I really thought the Packers would win the 7th seed, and I kind of decided that I was going to pick the 7th seed over the Niners way before the Packers game even happened because it's just a lot of pressure on Brock Purdy to go in there and try to perform as the 2 seed in the playoffs. So I would have been a lot more confident with the Packers, but I'm still going to stick with the Seahawks. If you look at the way their season went, they traded Russell Wilson. It just looked like they were in almost a rebuild mode, but then they kept Pete Carroll, so people were really confused because they have this veteran win-now coach, but a rebuild roster. But it is just so impressive what they were able to do with that rebuild roster. And especially those last few weeks of the season, I feel like you really saw this team playing as a team because they finally all came together like the Longest Yard replacement movie style, just this group of misfits coming together and being a really good football team. So it is just completely off the wall enough for the Seahawks to go in and beat the 2 seed. That why not have it happen? You have this team with so much momentum. It'd be completely crazy. So the NFL scriptwriters, I mean fate, not the NFL scriptwriters, could probably have the Seahawks winning this game and have the 7 beating the 2. And as I already mentioned earlier on the 49ers side, they have a stacked roster top to bottom, I won't lie. But they have a rookie quarterback coming in and playing his first playoff game. So those nerves hit him a little bit, and the Seahawks can take advantage of a few mistakes that the Niners make. We could see a huge upset here wildcard weekend.
If the 49ers lose, it's because the 49ers beat the 49ers.
Yeah,
that's the way I believe it'll go.
It would have to be that. And then now moving on to the Saturday night game, and in my opinion, what's probably one of the most exciting games to watch this wildcard weekend, other than the Vikings, of course, for me. But we have the Los Angeles Chargers as the 5 seed heading to Jacksonville to take on the 4 seed Jacksonville Jaguars, and yet another split. I have the Chargers in this one. Callan has the home team Jags.
Yeah, I just really like the Jags in this one. They had a big defensive output against the Titans and got a defensive touchdown for the win. The Chargers are kind of reeling a little bit. They're kind of backing into the playoffs with that loss. They have an injured Mike Williams again, so they won't be at full strength. And then it's the old adage of a West Coast team coming to the East Coast to play a game. And I know it's not the noon game. It's not completely like the old adage, but that is a long way to travel for a game. And there's going to be some jet lag with some of those Chargers players.
LA, Jacksonville, Florida. Yeah, that's pretty much the definition of cross country. But I think that this Chargers team just has way too much talent right now. The Jacksonville Jaguars, though it was a divisional matchup, barely beat an extremely beat up and injured Tennessee Titans team. And Trevor Lawrence didn't have a very good game, and the defense was able to help them out in that game. But Joshua Dobbs and Justin Herbert, total mind blank there. Joshua Dobbs and Justin Herbert are two very different beasts. It's going to be much harder to shut down Justin Herbert by that Jacksonville defense. So I see this being a close game, and this was, in my mind, far and away the hardest one to pick. But I do have the 5 seed pulling off the technical upset, I guess. It would be an upset, but I think these are very evenly matched teams, even though they are going way across the country. So next up, we have another AFC matchup with the 7 seed Miami Dolphins heading to Buffalo to take on the 2 seed Bills. And we agree again. If you like us picking different teams, then you're not going to like the rest of this episode because we agree the rest of the way through here. A little bit of spoiler alert. But Cal and I both have the Bills in this one. I think it's pretty obvious here. I mean, the Miami Dolphins are likely going to be starting Skylar Thompson. If not, it will be Teddy Bridgewater, which I think is a step up, but still not a true starting caliber quarterback in my opinion, even though I really do like Teddy. But they are going against a super good team and a really riled up crowd there in Buffalo. Those Buffalo fans are so excited. They have all of the momentum on their side right now. So I could see the Dolphins maybe putting up a fight and at least giving an effort since it's technically a divisional matchup. But at the end of the day, I think the Bills got this one.
Yeah, I like the Bills in this one too. And who knows who's going to start at quarterback for the Dolphins. Tua's still in concussion protocol, so it's not likely to be him. It's most likely going to be Skylar Thompson with Teddy Bridgewater still dealing with the finger injury. I think Teddy is the backup just because he's not 100%. But I just think that the Bills just are going to be too much for the Dolphins to overcome talent-wise and roster-wise.
I pray for that poor man's life that they don't throw Tua on that field against this Bills defense. I think they might actually kill him if they did that. So if I have to watch Tua die on the field or see Skylar Thompson play in the playoffs, I'll take Skylar Thompson every day. Next up, we're going to jump back over to the NFC with the New York Giants as the 6th seed heading to Minnesota to take on the Vikings, who are the 3 seed. And we agree yet again. We both have the Vikings in this one. I am shaking nervous because we already beat the Giants once in US Bank Stadium, which would make most people say, oh, so then you can beat them again. No, in the NFL, that is very different. It is so hard to beat the same team twice in the same season. So there's definitely some nerve there. All of the Giants starters had an entire rest last week. None of them played at all last week, so they're going to be coming in fresh and ready to win. The Vikings starters got half the game off, but it's still a difference there when one team is half fresh versus a team being fully fresh, completely like straight out of a bye week pretty much. Because you know that they knew that they weren't going to play their starters. So that means Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, probably even Brian Daboll has been studying the Vikings pretty much for 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
When the Vikings had to focus on the Bears a little more because we had that chance to get the 2 seed, even though we didn't end up getting it. So man, am I nervous, but I got to stick with my team. The Vikings have such a good offense. We should be getting Garrett Bradbury back at center, which is huge for our offensive line because we very much need help there. because if he doesn't play, we will be down to Chris Reed, our third string center again, and Oli Udoh, our backup right tackle. So we're going to have Oli Udoh nevertheless, which is a huge bummer because Kayvon Thibodeau has proved that he can be a game wrecker in big situations. So all the confidence in the world in my Vikings and none of the confidence in the world at the same time. But I think we might be able to niche out a win.
I think this should be a pretty good win for the Vikings. The matchup to keep an eye on is that trenches battle between the Vikings offensive line and the Giants defensive line, because that Giants defensive line is one of their strengths with Leonard Williams and who's the other one? Kayvon Thibodeau. Yep, and they have a defensive Dexter Lawrence.
Yep, in the middle, big guy in the middle there.
They got quite a strong defensive line there, and then with the Vikings offensive line kind of reeling with the injuries, hopefully with Bradbury back, that will help give us some strength back. But I think the Vikings should be able to handle this one pretty well. The Vikings have a better defense compared to the Giants offense. They just need to get oh man, I'm blanking on his name. The Giants quarterback, Daniel Jones. I kept wanting to say Duke Jones.
Danny Dimes.
Because he's from Duke. But Duke Jones.
It's a good nickname.
Yeah.
They should just call it that. I like that more than Daniel Jones.
But I think that as long as they get some pressure on him and get him rattled, he'll make a couple of mistakes that he's prone to, and the Vikings will capitalize on those mistakes and get early touchdowns.
That's a really good point. I want to say this will be Daniel Jones' first playoff game. Mm-hmm. And he's shown that sometimes when that pressure comes on, he is persistent to cracking in those big pressure situations. So that's a good thing to look at. And another key thing to look at that I forgot to mention, Justin Jefferson has had 2 games in a row of being very, very quiet, which is something he hasn't done pretty much since before he was even starting his rookie year. So look for a huge game in Justin Jefferson's first playoff game as well. So next, moving on to the final AFC game in the Sunday night football game, we have the Baltimore Ravens heading to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. We agree again. We both have the Bengals in this one. I don't believe Lamar Jackson will be back for this game. And even if he is back, it'll be the first time he has played in, I want to say 7 or 8 weeks. So he will be
over a month for sure.
Yeah, he will be coming in very, very rusty. So I think that the Bengals should readily handle this game. I can't imagine that the Ravens even put up much of a fight with Tyler Hudley or maybe even Anthony Brown, the rookie out of Oregon at quarterback. So the Bengals, they just actually played last week. This exact game happened last week with the Ravens heading to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. And I want to say it was only about a 10-point game, which is much closer than a lot of people expected. But you know that the Bengals weren't really going 100%. Now they're in the playoffs. It's a different atmosphere. They have a lot more playoff experience than a lot of the other people on this Ravens roster right now. So I got the Bengals pretty much by 1 million in this one.
Yeah, I got the Bengals too. I think this is going to be similar to that Bills-Dolphins game because the Ravens are coming in with an injured quarterback situation. We don't know who's going to start, whether it's Lamar or Snoop Huntley or Anthony Brown. Like you were saying, it could be either one of those 3. And I think that just spells a recipe for disaster for the Ravens.
Certainly. And then now the Monday night football game and the final NFC game for the playoffs is the 5-seed Dallas Cowboys heading to Tampa to take on the 4-seed Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we agree again to end it off. We both have the Cowboys in this one. The Bucs barely made it into the playoffs. Do you know the last time a team won a division with an under 500 record?
The Seahawks did it, I know, a few years ago at 7-9.
Yeah, so the Bucs won this division at 8-9, which is just insane to think about. And the Cowboys almost were the 1 seed for a while there. If the Eagles would have lost last week and the Cowboys would have won, they would have went from the 5 to the 1 seed and had to bye this week. So I feel bad for the Bucs, and I kind of do feel bad for Brady at this point. He gave all that stuff up. He's had all this controversy in his personal life just for football, and now he barely even makes the playoffs, and it is likely that he gets absolutely torn apart in round 1 here. The Cowboys are also extremely prone to choking. That's the word that I was stumbling over and looking for earlier. Prone to choking in big-time playoff situations. So Maybe Brady with his experience can take advantage of a Dallas choke, but at the end of the day, I think it's much more likely that the Cowboys steamroll the Buccaneers.
Yeah, this is a little bit of vengeance from week 1 when Dak got hurt against the Buccaneers and the Buccaneers kind of steamrolled them. I think it'll be an opposite this time around. I think the Cowboys should run over the Bucs. The Cowboys are just much more talented. They came out flat last week against the Commanders, and I'm going to be surprised if they come out flat again, because the way the NFL works, if you come out flat one week, you come out big the next week usually. So I think they're going to come out big and score big, and I think that it's going to be too much for the Buccaneers to overcome.
That has certainly been a common trend for this season, is being bad one week and good the next. But just as any wild card weekend setup, it's kind of funny because you got about 20% really good matchups and then about 70 or 80% just absolute blowouts. So we'll see where those games fall with the good matchups and the blowouts. I'll throw it up on screen right now, but I put together some brackets for both Callan and I just to give a little bit more of a visual representation of our picks, so you can see that here now. But thank you so much for watching, and if you liked the video, don't forget to hit that like button. And of course, until next time, don't forget
to eat the W.